MLS smashed their record transfer spend. We speak with Up the Hearts filmmaker Kurt Graser, and we do our first ever Friday morning Ask Me Anything, that and more on Friday's Morning Kick Around. Here we go. Good morning and welcome to the show. This is Morning Kick Around, where we cover the world's game from the United States of America, focused on the United States of America, coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm Robert Kerr up here in the Great Lakes State. He's Jason Davis from the East Coast. How you feeling, Mr. Davis?
I represent the entirety of the eastern coast of the United States of America. I always say it's where the people live, Rob. The people live over here. If you look at the population distribution of the United States, I represent the majority.
How long does it take you to drive from your house to where you are in a regional area? Or not a rural area, excuse me.
Oh, I can get rural, like truly rural, not just like some fancy houses and some green areas. Probably an hour. I would say an hour or so. Why?
I think that's, well, I was going to say that's how I gauge the difference. Very anecdotal way to say, how dense is your area? When I'm in Metro Detroit, it takes about the same sort of distance to get out there. But if you're in a town like Grand Rapids or Kalamazoo or something like that, you could drive like 10, 15 minutes anywhere, and you're in the middle of the woods in that extent. But we're not here to talk about geography. We're here to talk about the American soccer. We got an exciting show ahead, right?
We do. There's a possibility of some late breaking opportunities to talk to a noted soccer writer, but we definitely know that we've got a filmmaker on the show. I don't think we've ever had a filmmaker on the show before, so this will be cool.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be hitting some beats that we've talked about before. I'm excited to get into this filmmaking situation, and obviously there's some news. There's some interesting news out there.
All right, before we get kicked off, a couple things to hit. Hit subscribe if you haven't. Support us with a thanks or a channel membership. You can also write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Follow us on social media or support on coffee.com/morningkickaround. But we want to get right into the stuff. Let's get into our long balls here on Fridays. Morning Kick Around. Long balls here on Morning Kick Around. This is where we kind of hit the headlines before we dig deeper later in the show. But I'm Robert. He's Jason, leading the show here on Friday morning. MLS absolutely smashed their transfer record, spending $336 million on transfers, more than doubling the record. Amongst the big money signings, Denke to Cincinnati, Latte Atlanta, Honman Son to LAFC, amongst others. There you have it on the screen, just their gargantuan spend, way more. It's going up just about every year since 2022, but a big jump this year. What has led to this level of spending is, what I kind of want to iron out.
Yeah, that was kind of, it was a small bump. I mean, 2021, coming out of the pandemic, maybe lots of things didn't happen that would have happened in the year prior. Then we get a little bit of a drop in 2022, and he felt maybe you looked at this, if you paid attention to these numbers, and you're like, okay, this is where MLS is. Slightly south of $200 million a year in terms of transfer spending. And by the way, I borrowed this from Tom Bogert. I don't know if he made this graphic, but I borrowed it from Tom Bogert. And then you get to 2025, $336 million. That is what is this? So I will take all theories here, Rob. Shout out to Nate, one of our members, MK Ultra. World Cup bump? Perhaps? I don't know. What does that mean? Like, everybody's expecting an influx of cash to come from the World Cup coming to the United States, or there's an investment boom that's happening and more interest. I mean, is this related to Apple on some level, despite some of the questions about that deal? Maybe it is delivering clubs a sense that they can go and spend money in the transfer market because the underlying numbers on the league's finances are better. Like, I don't know. I really don't.
Well, we know that both Major League Soccer and USL are desperate to capture the American audience that is tuning into soccer, but not necessarily the American-based soccer. And maybe the spending is part of MLS's plan to try to capture some growth. They're talking about flipping the schedule and this sort of thing. So maybe some big money players coming into the league, raising the level on raising the status of the players coming in might be part of the plan to get more eyeballs on the domestic league ahead of a big event next year.
Yeah, I mean, there was, again, how do you force people to spend money? Like if you're, and again, we think of MLS as multiple things at once. It is both a single entity, one business operation, and a collection of people operating their clubs, not as owners in the traditional sense, but as people who have the rights to that market. And for all intents and purposes, at this point in the league's development in history, they are independent owners, right? They're making choices on spending like this on Latte Lath in Atlanta or Dinke in Cincinnati or Sun in LA. They're making those decisions as ownership groups, the same way that the people in charge at Arsenal decide to spend on Gyökeres, right? It's the same kind. There may be a slight difference in the process, but they're the ones that have to put this money down. The league's not like, we're going to give you money to go spend on a striker. You have to stump that money up yourself. And you have seen the valuations on clubs go up dramatically, Rob, despite the fact that we talked about the revenue maybe not being there the same way it needs to be to justify the valuation of a European club. And I think that's because the business model of MLS is so different. Bernardo is saying that Messi and friends paved the way to spend creatively.
That goes to your point. We had a YouTube short saying like, are rule breakers or boundary pushers, the key to, paving the way, so that, maybe he's on the right track there with that comment.
That. Like I said, like, is there a, do they, everybody get in a room together? I mean, all the soccer, what chief soccer officers, the CSOs, or the owners themselves, and Don Garber and the league and the people kind of in charge of guiding the league forward were like, look, we need to spend money to bring in better players because our opportunity to capture attention is happening now. It's going to happen. We can't wait until after the World Cup to do this. We need to get the caliber of players in that can help us push the league forward now, right? And you do have Jorge Mas, who I think is like in those rooms with literal sabers, rattling them, going, let's spend money. Like, it's not just Messi and Busquets. I think he sees this as, we need to go and be aggressive and take advantage and push the league forward. And what is this thing if we're just going to sit here and twiddle our thumbs? Why wouldn't we want to go bigger and better? And, there was a time, Rob, where if you were an MLS fan and there was some money spent like this, or you were old enough to remember the NASL, you might go, this is a little scary. Like,
so you think does it have like foreshadowings of bubble and overspending?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't feel that, and maybe I'm naive about it, right? But I think we've passed that point of whether or not MLS is going to collapse under financial mistakes. It seems to me these are, again, it's why they're single entity. It's why they spent so little in the beginning. It's why the rules are so restrictive. And I don't like the rules, and I think clubs should be able to spend beyond a handful of players per their roster. But this is indicative of an ambition that we all have been asking for the better part of a decade.
Yeah, MLS falling under its own weight seems hard now with how embedded in our, the corporate world of money. It's so big now. There would have to be a wild mass exodus that there's so many big corporate sponsors involved now and big money owners that it would really take quite the protracted event to lead to all these different corporate partners of leaving.
One of the most capitalized companies in the world, Apple, is now directly invested. Now, again, there's been all this speculation, and certain websites love to say Apple doesn't like this and they might pull out, and we're all doom and gloom because the numbers aren't good, or whatever they tell us. And obviously we have numbers now from Don Garber at the All-Star game that give us some sense of what their audience might be. And I think they're recognizing we've got to make some changes, but Apple may be telling them, look, we gave you a lot of money. We're not Yeah, use that money to make your product better because we want you to succeed because we put our eggs in your basket. And that's where we are.
Yeah, did Apple come to them saying they want to get some like journeyman MLS guy that's been bouncing around from team to team from year to year to spend their money on, or are we trying to get some headlines here? But just in general, like just a thought on the Apple TV. I saw a program that analyzes, the TV business and whatnot, and they said it's kind of a dangerous situation that they're in because Apple, that partner, doesn't need MLS content as much as MLS needs to be, on a outlet.
Absolutely.
So it's a dangerous thing. Like Apple could just kind of like, I mean, granted, there's probably some contract negotiations, but in theory, Apple could just disappear at one day and not really think too much about it.
It is absolutely fair to say that MLS is not in a position to dictate its TV terms. And it's why I think the Apple TV deal made sense at the time, because you wanted to bring in a bunch of money to backstop the business and give owners reasons to spend money and make the league grow and bring in more quality. And who else was going to offer you that kind of money? Who else was going to offer MLS the money that Apple did? Nobody. And it was because it was an experiment. It was because Apple was checking on their ability to become a sports streaming platform. And, again, the experiment continues. Maybe it's not proving to be quite a success yet, but it doesn't feel like everybody's willing to just give up on it. And again, maybe this spending is indicative of that.
We're going to wrap up this section, but $336 million spent on transfers in Major League Soccer just kind of blows your hair back thinking about that, and continue the conversation in the chat. Which one of these players that's coming this year are you most excited to see? Have you enjoyed the most? Or which big money player would you love to see come in the next time around the transfer window is open? But moving along to long ball number 2 here on Friday, August 29th. The final Friday of the month, but it's Stadium Watch. Can we get a deep voice, guy? Stadium Watch.
Stadium Watch. I don't have any effects on my voice. I wish I did. We'll work on that. We'll get some sort of guy saying Stadium Watch, and maybe that'll be a regular segment in the future. But yes, it is Stadium Watch time. What do we got, Rob?
Cleveland State University is in talks with the USL on stadium development. This is kind of a MLS USL proxy war here, because there was talks about MLS Next Pro getting involved in Cleveland, and per this release, Cleveland, the biggest city without pro soccer at the moment, so could be hallowed ground. But USL Cleveland's plan in Cleveland envisions an open-air stadium mixed-use district at the Wallstein Center, with construction possible in 2 to 3 years. And the announcement comes following the CSU Board of Trustees approving the start of negotiations between USL Cleveland this week, just yesterday, actually.
But who do we know who USL Cleveland is, Rob? Right? Like, so just not to make it, not to be doom and gloom about the possibilities here, but remember that sort of up the road, Midwest style, in Wisconsin, we've got a dead in the water project right now. Engines not running, nothing happening around USL Milwaukee, right? And maybe that was a land grab, and it's proven not to work out the way that they wanted, and different ideas are proliferating about what to do with that land, and it's not just handed to the people that want to put a soccer stadium there. But yeah, is this something akin to that? Do we have a sense of how serious these people are? Like, and again, does this represent, as you said, a proxy war? Are we now going to see a real battle for Cleveland soccer hearts and minds between MLS Next Pro and USL, which is something I really don't want to see? Now, there should be enough markets to go around, but when you have a big market like Cleveland, which, as you said, and we didn't verify this, but it sounds right,
per the release,
the biggest market without a pro soccer team, that's going to attract people when we're watching this explosion of development and interest in the game around the country.
Yeah, just a cursory scan out there, that doesn't seem to be a specific USL Cleveland entity, at least not easily searchable. So we got the clip from the soccer business talking to the gentleman leading the USL stadium negotiations, talking with 70 different cities across the United States. So the USL Cleveland could just be a place filler for whatever entity that USL has in mind to then step into that. It might not even actually be a formed thing for what we can.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is, is there money behind this, or is this just sort of a collective of people identified to negotiate with Cleveland State about redeveloping this site, and then you create the project, and then you say, hey, super rich guy, you want to be involved in this project? Look what we're going to do. We're going to redevelop this site. We're going to build a soccer stadium. There's going to be concerts. This could be a money-making opportunity for you. There might be a tax break from the city of Cleveland, that kind of stuff. I'm sounding very cynical. And as I said, I'm willing to allow for some of that to happen if it pushes our game forward and brings soccer and pro soccer to more communities. Obviously, I want it done the right way, and I think we're going to get a sense of doing things the right way when we talk to Kirk Graser about Portland Hearts of Pine, the club that he is documenting in his series, Up the Hearts. Is that what's happening here, or is this just opportunism in soccer form?
So the competing bid, there was a release in March this year. I vaguely remember us talking about this, but there is a plan for a 10,000 person stadium, a partnership with the Cleveland Metro Parks for both a MLS Next Pro team and a women's team, and a South Gateway Stadium project. So the heat is on for the Cleveland market. Definitely a soccer war going in there. Battle for, what's the nickname for Cleveland?
What is Cleveland? I don't know. Cleveland's got a nickname, right? They got a nickname. I don't know what Cleveland's nickname is. I always think of Major League. That's my main reference for Cleveland, Ohio, is Major League, the film. What this feels like, and what this seems like from our research, is that this Cleveland State said, we've got this building, the Wolstein Center, which I guess is an indoor arena / sports venue, something like that. I think actually the Cleveland Crunch is going to play their games at this venue this season, the indoor team.
Nice.
This is unfair. Mistake on the lake. I've heard that. I wasn't going to repeat it. Thank you, Andy. That's not right. We're not doing that. Cleveland's a fine place.
Forest City. According to an AI search, Forest City is the go-to Cleveland.
AI search? Rob, what are you doing to me? Okay. What I'm saying, though, is it looks like Cleveland State said, okay, we want to redevelop this site. This place is old. It needs to be replaced. We have an opportunity here. And they submitted a bid request, right? They put out that request for qualifications to say, like, who wants to redevelop this? Give us your ideas. Pitch us on what you will do at this site and how it will benefit Cleveland State University. And the one they picked is this USL idea, right? So, again, all right, USL Cleveland, founded by co-founders Tim. I'm going to go with Junglas, not Hunglas. It's a J, but you tell me. That one might be. And Kevin Patrick Murphy. Those are the two people that are backing USL Cleveland, leading USL Cleveland. So those two gentlemen, and maybe it's an opportunity for us to dive in deeper with this news out to figure out who these guys are and maybe get them on the show to learn about the plan there in Cleveland to redevelop this Cleveland State University building into a soccer stadium venue or into a soccer stadium site so that they can bring professional soccer to the biggest market without a pro soccer team in America.
I feel like there's got to be some caveats to the biggest pro city without a team. Because, I mean, Baltimore has the Baltimore Blast pro soccer team. And Baltimore, I thought, was as big as Cleveland. But interesting to see, the battle is on to get stadia and infrastructure and pro soccer into Cleveland. The soccer wars battle on.
You're right. That idea of what's the biggest market without a pro soccer team, and I hadn't even thought about Baltimore, and it still remains crazy to me that Baltimore does not have a pro soccer team. By the way, this is just television markets. Cleveland, Akron is number 19. Whereas Baltimore is number 29. So it's 10-spot difference there, Rob.
Well, interesting enough. We shall see how that proceeds. Long ball number 3 here on Friday morning is the Fab Four. As we want to do here on Friday morning is kind of draw a circle or highlight the top picks for games to watch, maybe carve a little bit of time out for in the North American soccer calendar. There's quite a few in action. MLS, USL, all in action. NWSL back from their break too. So chat, get your picks in the chat for the Fab Four. The fourth pick goes to the Ultras, goes to the chat. Jason, lead us off with the first pick of this weekend's Fab Four. Hey, Jaden.
Yeah, I'm gonna start. Yeah, welcome to the show, Jenny. I'm gonna start with the top of the table clash in the Eastern Conference between FC Cincinnati and the Philadelphia Union. The Union 2 points up on Cincy going into this game there at TQL Stadium in Cincinnati, which means that if Cincinnati holds serve at home and beats the Union, they will jump not just to the top of the Eastern Conference table, but to the top of the Supporter Shield standings as well. And you know, I guess that depends on what Cincinnati does. San Diego does. Excuse me. I guess if Cincinnati wins, they'll be on 55, and if San Diego wins against LAFC, they could be ahead. But it's still an incredibly big game, and there's more to it than just these are two good teams battling for position in the Eastern Conference. You've got that kind of family affair vibe to it. Chris Albright was there in Philly. Pat Noonan was an assistant. They've now gone to Cincinnati and turned them into a powerhouse. I think it's fascinating to see that Bradley Carnell has gotten Philadelphia to this point, despite the fact that everybody's freaking out over Jim Curtin losing his job. So there's lots of like little elements here. Plus, Cincinnati went out and spent some cash in the transfer window, or did some work rather, I guess you could say, in the transfer window. They brought Brenner back. His status as part of this could be interesting. So I'm very intrigued by this game kicking off. I imagine 7:30. Yeah, 7:30 there in Cincinnati on Saturday night.
Good pick there, Jason. I do like that. Cincinnati, really, really fun to watch. And obviously Union having this incredible, I don't even know if you call it a bounce back, but very resilient, showing strength with big turnover and coaching and
right?
players.
Missed the playoffs last year. So absolutely it's a bounce back.
Yeah, because I know the fans, the regular viewers that are, Mike Thomas right there in the chat, did not have high hopes for his Union this year, but probably, I don't want to speak for you, Mike, but I'm assuming this is beyond your expectations going into the season. For my pick, the second pick of the Fab Four going into the final weekend, the holiday weekend here at the end of the summer, I'm going to go outside of the box a little bit. I'm going to go to a maybe burgeoning derby game, going to USL Championship, going to the north of California, Oakland Roots versus Monterey Bay. Not an obvious pick. They're not having a banner seasons as far as their records, sitting respectively Monterey in 10th and Oakland in 11th, but an opportunity to get one over on their somewhat local rivals, and an opportunity to get some 3 points and, maybe get some bad blood between the North California teams in the USL Championship. Jenny, what you got?
Shout out to this game's also it's at the Oakland Coliseum. They're trying to develop a really cool environment there in the former stadium of the Oakland A's. So always want to shout that out too when you talk about the Oakland Roots.
Yeah, don't want to forget that they broke some records at the Oakland Coliseum earlier in the year. I think their first couple games got 20,000 or so. I know the first game we talked about had some incredible attendance. I don't think that has continued to that scale through the season.
Let me also add a little color to this. Thanks to our friend Nicholas Murray over at USL, who writes a very good newsletter on the USL called The Rondo. You should subscribe to it and support Nicholas Murray and what he's doing for the league out of the league office. He notes that Mayeli Malango, Monterey Bay player, was called up by Malawi for World Cup qualifiers. And while Malawi's probably not going to make the World Cup, as a 28-year-old getting his first call up, that's just a cool story. And that's really good for USL to have internationals, populating clubs like Monterey Bay.
Yeah, no doubt at all. Jenny, you get our third pick of the Fab Four. And before Jenny spits hers out, get your selection in. Chat, you get the fourth pick here, so get your suggestions in.
I am sticking with the USL Championship and going with Indy 11 against Louisville City. This is another rivalry game with a rather long and complicated name. LIPAFC is what this goes by. It is the Louisville Indianapolis Proximity Association Football Contest. And according to the website, I learned a few things about this matchup. It is the single most important sporting and cultural event in human history. It has a trophy.
Is that the trophy? Wait, are we looking at the trophy right now?
You are looking at the trophy right now. This beat-up construction barrel with an I-65 sign on it, currently held by Louisville City FC. I love this. This is the sort of thing that I come to soccer for, just the completely goofy. That's just the supporters groups probably created this. Every distinguished competition requires a trophy of elegance, sophistication, and equal importance. And if this doesn't describe that, then I don't know what does.
I'm going to say so. This is an incredible pick, Jenny. I'm going to say, and I'm not trying to offend anybody up there in New England, okay? But this is way better than El Clamico. This is way better than El Clamico. This is completely original. That's incredible that's the trophy. I love this. This is great.
Yeah, put that in the American Soccer's Weird Hall of Fame. Why don't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
that's my pick. 7 o'clock Saturday, ESPN Plus.
All right, so the morning kick around crew. We've got Oakland Roots versus Monterey Bay. Jason's pick of Cincinnati and the Philadelphia Union, and Jenny going with the I can't even remember the acronym already, but Indy versus
AFC.
LIPAFC.
There you go. The fourth pick, it's the Ultras pick, the chat pick. So I'm going to go into the morning kick around Discord server to see what suggestions they had. You can become a member and get access to the morning kick around Discord server with $3.99 a month. Become an MK Ultra. In the chat, tons of fun suggested. Dayton Flyers visiting Oakland University. So that's actually in my backyard there. Cheers, tons of fun. There's a shout for Liverpool Arsenal for television watchers, but Knoxville versus Spokane suggestion, and New Mexico versus Sacramento for Mystic Force.
Liverpool Arsenal's an MK derby. So I don't really mention that at least. So
sure. And also, Leagues Cup final is on Sunday. Yes. Seattle is hosting Inter Miami. They're going to get 50,000 for that game. Lionel Messi coming to town with the South Florida boys. So that deserves a mention. Shout out to Mike Thomas. Feels weird not having the Leagues Cup final in here, but does anyone actually care? Seattle fans care. I think that is true. I think they
probably care.
Messi fans, we'll see. Very, very. By the way, Andy is saying it's not El Clamico. How dare I say El Clamico? It's called the Chowder Bowl, which I guess is better. I guess that's better. All right. Anyway, really good picks from everybody. I love the Fab Four. I'm glad we're highlighting some of that lower division stuff. There are lots of games we could have picked from, including one down in USL League One tomorrow at 5:00, Fitzpatrick Stadium, Portland, Maine. Portland Hearts of Pine, currently 10th place in USL League One against the Charlotte Independents. Charlotte is 5th place in USL League One. Why am I mentioning Portland Hearts of Pine, Rob?
Why ever would you do such a thing? It has something to do with our next segment. And before we move to that, I stand corrected. It's Spokane, not Spokane. So
you said Spokane? I didn't catch that. Oh wow, you're booted. Get off the show, Rob. You said it wrong. How dare you?
That's my first strike of the day. Let's keep it there. But apologies to Spokane. But yes, next up we are talking to documentary filmmaker of a great project on YouTube called Up the Hearts. We're going to talk with filmmaker Kurt Graser here. Before we do, remind you guys, if you're watching this now and you haven't hit subscribe, do so now. Join the over 3,000 who have hit the subscribe button. If you want to step up your support a notch, hit a super thanks, throw some cash. If you're enjoying the show, you can become a MK Ultra, $3.99 a month, become a channel member, or you can support on ko-fi.com/morningkicker. And we got some specific fundraising goals for some fun projects we could potentially work on. And then you can also follow us along on social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, Blue Sky. Write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com, or find us as a podcast on your favorite audio platform. All right, you ready to talk film and media in soccer?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk about that.
All right, get to know your district. Portland, Maine, coming up here on Morning Kick Around. That's right. It is Get to Know Your District here on Morning Kick Around, the segment of the show where we try to get to learn all the districts, all the cities, all the clubs across the United States. And this edition, we are going to learn about Portland, Maine, and Portland, Maine soccer through the eyes of filmmaker Kurt Graser. 5 episodes of Up the Hearts is on YouTube now, a fantastic American soccer documentary. Welcome to Morning Kick Around, sir.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Appreciate you coming on, Kurt. It's been fun watching the documentary and seeing the story. You know, we've talked a lot about things like Welcome to Wrexham and those kind of things. And one thing I struggle with a lot is like, I know what happened in the season, and now I'm going back in time, and you know, maybe there's something interesting that I missed, but it's kind of hard for me to reconcile. I have none of that with Up the Hearts. I mean, even if I do know, you know, some things about the club, there is so much here to learn. Just watched episode 5. In fact, finished it this morning, and we open up with a song written about the club by a local band, local musician. I mean, first of all, tell us about the origin of doing this. I mean, how did this come together?
Yeah, for sure. So I heard about this team kind of forming about 5 years ago. Gabe Hoffman Johnson is the founder, and Portland is a small city, so kind of everybody knows each other. So I was like, hey, it'd be really cool do you mind if we start documenting this process? And he was like, yeah, sure. We don't know what's going to happen. So we started filming interviews about 3-4 years ago, not knowing what was going to happen. We didn't know if it was going to be a documentary series. We just had no idea. We didn't know if even the team was going to form. So we started filming these things, and it started picking up speed in the last 2 years. And then we were like, oh, wow, we have something here, you know? So we started filming some more. And it was clear that it wasn't a documentary as in like a 90-minute, 2-hour type of thing. This was clear that it was going to be a series. And that's kind of how it all got started. It just really Gabe saying sure and giving us access, and we started going for it.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear. I was going to ask you, how did the origins of happen this? Because I've watched the first 3 episodes, and it was clear you were boots on the ground early here. There was no catching up with the story. You're right there along with it. So it makes sense that you were here 3 to 5 years ahead of release. So I guess I can't imagine, what was that feeling like to actually know that this was happening, and all that work and filming that you'd already done was actually going to, turn into a production?
Yeah, for sure. Well, let me step back for a second. I've been in sports for a long time, so I never really, at a professional level, I've worked at ESPN. I've worked on the athlete rep side for years, but I never was really part of I never seen like a team just kind of form out of nothing. Yeah.
Very American thing.
I was just like, well, this is something interesting. We should capture it. And I really want to, if we didn't just jump in and capture it right away, I felt like nobody was, and we had to tell this story. So we just jumped in right away. And knowing that, I just always had a feeling something was going to come of it. Like, even if it was maybe like an internet small thing, or, maybe a short documentary or something like that. We were going to put something together, for better or for worse. If the team was going to form, we're going to, we're doing what we do. If it didn't form, we'd probably put something together as well. So where it is now, I'm super excited. It's great. Now we have 5 episodes. We're probably going to have about 8 or 9 by the end of the season. We're on television. We're on NESN, which is where the Red Sox play. So it's a regional New England sports network. So, where it is now, I'm super excited. This is tremendous. And, I don't know where this is going to go either. Are they going to make the playoffs? Or they're not? So, that's kind of where we're at right now.
That's part of it. I mean, obviously you've got, and that's the thing, like somebody who's never been to Portland. I did spend a little time in Boston. That's about as close as I got, but I do know Tom Caron, right? I do know some of the elements of what sports culture is in New England, and for that to be about soccer, right? So I'm a romantic baseball fan going back a long time. Ted Williams is my favorite player. Never saw the guy play, obviously, but to be able to tie that to soccer has been such a fun watch. I mean, is that something that you were sort of conscious of? I mean, this roll season episode has features episode 3 features one of the most successful high school coaches in the area. So how much of soccer's sort of bubbling popularity were you aware of, or were you thinking about as you made the series?
Well, listen, the World Cup's coming in next year, so we knew that the popularity is kind of building already here. In Maine specifically, people are soccer crazy here. There are supporters group all over Portland, all over Maine. There's fantastic high school teams. There's great like youth premier teams. So the want for this team is here. The soccer interest is here. So I wasn't too worried about people being interested in the show locally here. What I really want to do here was tell this story so people can know outside of Maine what we're doing here, what the team is doing, and then as you see through the other episodes, what the community is doing too in Lewiston, youth soccer here in Portland. Those are stories that I find equally as fascinating as just the team, and I want to pair those together during all the episodes.
Yeah.
One of the things that people really look for and when they gravitate to things is, relatability in the subjects that are there. And I think that this might really fall into American soccer people across the country that are trying to form their own teams or have a very small USL team. They want it to be more. I have very niche interests. I work and volunteer my time for a local USL 2 team. So I don't know if I've ever, as a very niche thing, I don't think I've ever related as wholeheartedly to as the local soccer organizer you had on there that was hosting the pickup games, the after hours pickup games and stuff like that. I don't think I've ever seen like myself as closely represented on the soccer screen. So the documentary definitely seems like it's very relatable for North American soccer. And maybe, like you said, to your point, helping other people get to know Portland, Maine. So the biggest extended get to know your district segment there up the hearts there, really showing all the different things. So really great mix for those who haven't seen it, really great mix of footage of the area. There's lots of establishing shots. So we kind of know what the city looks like. And you also talk about the neighboring Lewiston and kind of that's like a rural area. And you have all the different key parts. Like you have the brewery guy, you have the soccer bar, you have the main owner and leader and the backstories. It's really fascinating. Like, have you been able to get the subjects of choice almost all the time? Is there anyone that's been missing from the storytelling process? You seem pretty thoroughly on it.
Robert, that's a great question. I'd like it's great. I think locally, outside the team, I think everybody who wants to be involved has been involved, which is great. Even Tom Karen, who you mentioned, is a minority owner. He is so supportive and involved in the show, which is tremendous. What I like to specifically do is not only tell those stories, which we're getting, but I want to do more player profiles too throughout the year too, and kind of get that. In our last episode, we did a profile on Mikey Lopez, which was great. Kind of one of the more senior members of the team. We talked to Khalid Hersey, who is a local Lewiston resident who made the team as well. So I think more of those would be awesome. But so I'm kind of balancing a few things here too. Like I'm not employed by the Hearts of Pine.
Right.
This is my company. We put this whole documentary together. So they're giving us access to all this, which has been tremendous. They have been a fantastic partner. But, working with players and profiles, we got to go through Coach Bobby Murphy. If he's like, no, these guys got to practice and really keep their head down. I don't want them involved. That I get it. So we're balancing that as we put this show together. Yeah,
it's I imagine. I mean, and again, as you've outlined, you guys started so long ago. I imagine there's lots of stuff you didn't use even from we tracked the creation of the name and the badge, and we got a lot of that stuff is incredible. And obviously, didn't know it was going to be such a hit either. I mean, outside of Portland, I imagine.
Yeah, no, yeah, we have terabytes of footage that we've shot that we have not used for this for sure. The idea is, and we're putting this series together while the season is happening, which is extremely interesting and difficult at the same time. There's a lot of stuff that has to hit the cutting room floor. I'm hoping after the season is done, when we have 8, 9, 10 episodes, to kind of go back and kind of re-edit them, maybe add some context to things that we didn't have before, because these other series like the All or Nothing series or Wrexham, they shoot all season and then they spend a year editing the whole thing. I'm doing this in season, which is a little complicated and difficult at the same time. But it's a challenge for myself and my team, and it's been great so far. So we're hoping the rest of the season is as good as the last 5 episodes that we've done.
Yeah, I think it was in either the first or second episode, the process of developing the look and the badge and the logo. Yeah. I would just put the comment on the screen, the Heart Bandit story, just like the way that whole formed. That was really, really great storytelling there.
Yeah, that the team, all credit to Gabe Hoffman-Johnson, who's the founder of the team, Burke Cherry, who really helped him kind of develop all that stuff. Burke Cherry is now working with Men in Blazers, and he used to work for Force Soccer, and they are. So they think about these things for years. They didn't just jump right into this. This has been, clearly they've been thinking about this for 3, 4, 5 years, and it shows. And so we were just able to kind of sit back and kind of watch this process happen. And that's what the first and second episode really kind of like tell that story.
Yeah, I'm curious too, like the reach of this. You mentioned Beyond Nesson. Obviously, that's huge in the region. I mean, you go to YouTube, it's obviously available to everybody. I'm curious, like, what kind of reaction you've got, not from Portland. Obviously, we know Portland soccer fans are probably in love with this and want to be part of it, but outside of that, because as American soccer culture, we're very eager to jump on these bandwagons, particularly when they feel authentic, the way that Portland Hearts of Pine does.
Yeah, we get a lot of messages from folks outside of New England saying, "Hey, when's that next episode happening?" When I'm enjoying the series. I live in Minneapolis. I live in Pennsylvania. I live in wherever. I'm really enjoying the series. When's the next one happening? And to be honest, the show, when we first do it, goes to TV. It goes on Nesson. It stays there for about 2 weeks. But to be honest, a lot of people in New England don't have Nesson, actually. So they're waiting for it to come to YouTube as well. So, we do get a lot of messages from around. I've got messages from England. We've got a message from somewhere in Africa as well, in the Caribbean. So there is lots of interest in this, and I'm just trying to get this out there for people to really understand. The team is diverse too. This team is from all over the world: Australia, England, the Caribbean. So, I'm assuming folks that live in those regions are going to be interested in this story as well.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely apparent that it was a diverse area, and the definitely diversity within the team. You said your 5 episodes are available on YouTube, and you're going to go to 8 or 9,
all depending on the playoffs.
yeah, for sure, all depending. And that's the beauty of what you're doing, is you're documenting as it goes along.
Yeah.
But of the episodes that are publicly available now that viewers can look up, right after this morning kick around episode ends, what would you say is the moment, or like the shots where you're like, yes, I guess what stands out so far that like you really hang your hat on, of like it's going well?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think it was in episode 2 when they released a jersey, and they did an event at a local music venue here called the State Theater, and it was sold out. It was packed with like fans like wanting to see that jersey, and the governor was there and all these type of things. So that's one thing. The other thing is like the one thing that other stands out is episode 4 when they had their first league game away in Naples. I was down there with my team. It was a small team. And there was about 50, 60 people from Maine that came down to watch that first game. And that was tremendous. They made more noise at one point than Naples FC folks, or FC Naples folks. So that was a big moment too. And obviously the home match that you're seeing right now, the first home match, it's tremendous. Like that stadium downtown in Portland it's a high school stadium, but to see 6,000 plus fans there, just like having the best time ever was tremendous.
Yeah, I just wanted to, oops, I'm sorry. I don't remember how to get them back. Kind of curious.
Hey.
My apologies. That's me pushing buttons I shouldn't push. I'll leave that to Jenny next time. I wanted to show the trailer. That was for episode 5, the most recent episode that dropped this week. And yeah, that vibe in the stadium. I mean, that's obviously as soccer fans, is sort of what we live for. We live for the atmosphere. There's and again, we kind of already know how that went on some level. If you went back and looked at it, maybe if you didn't pay attention to the home opener, you weren't really in tune with it. But I imagine there was a lot of trepidation on the part of the club. Like, what is this going to look like in the stadium? Will we get the atmosphere that we think we're going to get? I mean, just because you feel pretty confident doesn't mean you know what's going to happen, Kurt.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very close with the front office staff now. Kevin Scholl, who's the president of the team, Gabe, and then those folks that work there, I see them on a weekly basis, and they are tremendous. It's a large staff for a USL 1 team, from what I'm understanding from talking to other USL 1 teams, and they all work super hard to make this all happen. So that first game, they've been thinking about it for 2 years. Planning, figuring out what's going to happen. Where's the food going to go? Where's the kids zone? Sponsor, yada yada yada. What's going to happen during it? So, and I know they were talking for a long time. So, in the latest episode, we try to do our best to kind of follow that kind of arc. Really, they're going there for the first time, figuring out where everything is going to go. Talking to the folks that are literally screwing in the seats and kind of getting ready. They had to put down $3 million in new turf. So these guys have been working extremely hard to make that high school football stadium a proper soccer stadium for this team. And to be honest, I had my reservations for sure, but I feel that they really pulled it off. And every game since, and I know we've only seen through episode 5 with the first game, but I've been to every game since then, and it's just a tremendous atmosphere every time they have a game.
Yeah, that passion and that excitement, that atmosphere definitely comes through on screen with what you've put together. And just, I think someone in the comments said something about this, put this in the zeitgeist for, American soccer and, how to build a club and how to launch a club. Yeah. It's a fantastic blueprint and a great success story. And just the quality of the production really stands out. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing the insights in Up the Hearts. Available now, 5 episodes and more to come.
Absolutely, and you guys got to get up here.
Man,
you guys have to watch it. You got to get up to your game. Do your show up here. I guarantee. I got a studio. We can host it here. Let's just do this. You guys would have a great time.
A show from Portland. What an idea. We may have to set a precedent for that. I one more question, Kirk, because I forgot I wanted to ask this. Sure. You're documenting this. That means you're not supposed to, interject yourself into the story and those kind of things. I mean, we're not doing hard and fast journalistic rules, I imagine, but this is watching it happen and documenting what's going on. So you're not writing a story, but what would you prefer for your final episode? What would be the right kind of vibe? I mean, obviously winning a championship is everybody's dream, but that may be a little out of reach for a first-year club. So what kind of things do you think about for what the series will look like when you end it?
Oh, that's such a great question. Things have been kind of changing too. I just got a message yesterday that they have 3 home games within a week and a half to end the season. And those 3 games might determine everything, determine if they go to the playoffs, might end the season, to be honest. So I don't know. I think that's such a great question. I don't know. Preferably, I like it to see them win the whole thing. I think that would be tremendous for me personally.
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, what I really want to do is just tell this story, this group, this first season. And then once the season's over, really get a look back. Talk to not only the front office staff, players, Coach Bobby Murphy, but the community as well, and how this really impacted everybody. Because I really feel that this season, this team is impacting this whole community, this whole state. And I really want to try to capture that. And hopefully the last episode and maybe there'll be a season 2. I don't really know. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
We shall see how it all plays out. Kurt Graser from Knack Films, Up the Hearts, available locally on NESN and anywhere in the entire planet on YouTube. Kurt, thank you so much for joining us. Great idea for maybe morning kick around to journey up to the Northeast. I've never been to the East Coast. I'll just put that out there. So there'll be quite an exciting thrill. But
wow.
Get up here, Robert.
Yeah, I definitely need you. And I was going to say that's the most exposure I've ever had to the Mainer accent.
Oh, I'm yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. There's a lot of northern New England accents from Vermont to Maine. So yes, there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir. Get to know your district, Portland, Maine. put the pin on the map. Thank you so much to Kurt for sharing. Go check out Up the Hearts on YouTube. And as we get ready for our final segment of the day, I got to remind you, if you enjoyed that segment and what we do here on Morning Kick Around, tell your friends, then hit subscribe if you haven't already. You can hit super thanks if you'd like to do a one-time donation, or you could even become an ultra. $3.99 a month is all it costs. Get priority commenting to these live videos. You get priority access to Morning Kick Around Discord server. We got great conversations on the Discord server, from local stories, USL, MLS, national teamers, and just some general commentary and some introductions, some almost soccer-holic confessions over in there. Some great threads on the Morning Kick Around Discord server. So thank you to everyone who has become a member already and those considering it. And at the very least, tell your friends about Morning Kick Around. All right, we're going to catch our breath, maybe take a sip of coffee, and come right back with the big question here on Morning Kick Around. The big question here on Friday's Morning Kick Around, a bit of a change of direction for us here. How about a Friday free-for-all, Jason, and ask me anything on Morning Kick Around? We've got some random notes teasing a big announcement for next week. Where should we start here to wrap up our week here on Morning Kick Around before the holiday weekend? Was this technically, at least in the Midwest, this is technically the last week of summer.
Yeah, we are. That is always a little sad, right? When you hit the end of the summer. Now, school has already started, at least for my older one. I got a little one who's going to preschool on Tuesday. But yeah, that's the thing. I think we're going to go. I think I got a pool party I might be attending tomorrow, but that's it. Then summer's over. And then we got to get into fall. And I love fall, I guess. We want to start out with a question. What's your favorite season, Rob? What's your favorite season of the year?
Oh, man, it's got to be spring. Springtime in college was probably the best time ever in life, so I got to go with spring, but it is awfully nice here in the fall. The peripheral, like, couple weeks of the transitions between when it's way too cold here or way too hot in the summer, those transition months, spring and fall, there's usually a couple good weeks of it, and fall's pretty good. I can't hate on it, but there's a foreboding dark time coming, so I'll if I'm going to choose, you're going to back me into a corner, I'll say spring's my favorite, even though.
Okay, that's a fine choice. I prefer autumn myself, but I like spring as well. Now, obviously, when the calendar changes for soccer in America, or at least MLS, I don't know how that's going to affect our moods about the seasons. But speaking of MLS, and we focused a lot on USL today, how about this for a question? Last minute, grabbed a friend of the show, excellent soccer writer over at The Athletic, Jeff Rueter. We're going to throw him up right now. He is calling in to MK Kick Around, in Morning Kick Around, to help us out with a question we asked. When did we ask this question? On Monday, Rob? We asked a question about the marketplace for USL players for MLS clubs. So we had the move, right? The high profile signing. It was $300,000, which is not a crazy amount of money these days, but it is something. Minnesota United signing a player out of USL, and it got us thinking about, is there a market? Jeff has written on this in the past. It's been a little while, but Jeff, welcome to the program.
Yay, thanks for having me. And I'm a fall guy myself personally. So
hey,
this is where it's at. But like spring is a fine second pick. Those transitionary seasons, like it's a blessing. It really is to be between the two.
That is fair. All right. So Jeff, Mamadou Dieng goes from Hartford to Minnesota, and it got us thinking about the marketplace for players from USL to go into MLS, to be purchased. I mean, in other places in the world, this is it seems like it's common practice. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know that championship players move up to the Premier League, not just through promotion, but through purchases on a fairly regular basis.
Absolutely.
Is that a thing that's happening or not happening? And again, like, how do we kind of think about that marketplace within MLS and American soccer?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the sort of coinciding question that always accompanies why aren't there more lower division players getting purchased by MLS clubs for transfer fees, right? And not just maybe getting a trial in February and then sticking on as guy 26 on a squad. I mean, a lot of it is, what is the gap between, the top players in the second division of the USL Championship or the let's say the bottom options in Major League Soccer. And I think that right now a couple of factors are playing against the USL. First of all, MLS has a much better academy, so there isn't the same sort of need to fortify the domestic portion of your squad if you have a functioning academy. If you're a Columbus Crew, Seattle Sounders, New York, Dallas, RSL, whatever the case may be, Philly, you can get 5, 6, 8 homegrown players dependably. So you're really only identifying 22 other players at that point, right? And in the past, it used to be you might have 1 or 2 guys who came through your academy. You might have your Bill Hamids, your Will Trapps, but you still needed to get a lot of numbers. And so you were looking at the NASL at the time and the USL as well to try to find some of those diamonds in the rough. MLS Next Pro also complicates things a little bit, but I will say in a way, MLS Next Pro has also helped identify players who might be more of a Diego Luna or Fidel Baraja sort of profile, who are, maybe being overlooked in their MLS academy, not sort of viewed as one of the top, like we need to accelerate the track of growth and get him onto an MLS field as soon as possible. Okay, well then let me back out. Let me go to the Barca residency, then sign with the El Paso Locomotive, and Real Salt Lake will still be scouting us, come calling, and I can still have a path to the U.S. men's national team if you're Diego Luna, right? So I think that Next Pro is helping push certain players who just want pro minutes as soon as possible and see that Next Pro really is a reserves league that doesn't have many spectators or grown men coming up against you for headers, things like that. But at the same point now, that means MLS teams have to have, and these sporting directors need to have the humility to say, it's not that I was wrong about that guy. It's that he needed the development at a higher level. And yes, it is worth investing in where he's at now and his future, even if at the time we kind of let him walk.
When we talked about this subject earlier in the week, we had some commenters saying that perhaps MLS directors and in general don't like to pull up USL players just to not maybe emphasize USL or shine a light on USL or even accept the fact that there might be a closer gap in talent. Would you say that there's any of that going on?
I don't think there's that prejudice. I understand why that's like a enticing sort of narrative to say that they just kind of look down and it's this other league that's kind of competing. MLS sporting directors aren't worried about soccer wars, right? They're not necessarily sweating out what is the future. Is the USL going to be building a Division I that can overtake us? No, they just want to find the best way to improve their team. And I think that you look and that $300,000 spent for Jiang to move from Hartford Athletic to Minnesota United. Okay, well, there's some sporting directors who would rather spend that $300,000 to bring in an 18-year-old prospect from another country or sign like the best player from Costa Rica who is still playing in the domestic league. Like that fee can still go a pretty long way in other parts of the world where you look and then you're comparing the USL player on the merit. And there are going to be benefits for the USL player where they've already played in the United States and they've already had the travel, they've had the rigors, they've had the bus trips.
Jeff, the other thing I think that we pondered is when you think about sporting directors, general managers, whatever title they're carrying, there are plenty of Americans, don't get me wrong, but there are also guys that come here from other places and kind of bring their knowledge base from Europe or whatever. And I just wonder if maybe they just have a blind spot on this because, hey, look, if Ernst Tanner is going to go look for a player, he's going to go look for a player in Austria or in Belgium or in Germany. Looks like maybe we lost Jeff. Did we lose Jeff?
Do you still have Jeff? Jeff can hear you.
Here he is.
Jeff can hear you. Okay. There could be some truth to that. I could see it. I think that especially if they have their contacts and their connections, they're going to lean into their Rolodex a bit heavier than just, kind of blind faith and some other things. But I think that at the same point, Minnesota United's chief soccer officer who would have brokered the deal with Hartford, Khaled El Ahmad, he's Swedish. He's worked for Barnsley before this. Now he was also a scout for City Football Group, so he is used to looking at the region. But I think that is very true. It's going to come down to how each chief soccer officer and their sporting department wants to identify talent, and some of them are frankly just going to say, let's bring in players from abroad, let's bring in players who fit a different profile, or maybe if we're spending transfer fees in general, these players better be ready to see the field immediately. And there might be some concerns about the transferability and how immediately a USL player could adapt to MLS, especially in the middle of a season without a preseason.
Just kind of as a final thought on this, Jeff, would you say that this pathway between USL and MLS, like this deal that we're talking about here with Dieng, do you think this is a one-off because this is a standout young, like in a aspiring player? Is this a one-off thing, or is this a trend that there might be a bit of a more of an active organic ecosystem moving up and down the ranks within North American soccer?
Well, one move isn't going to make a trend, right? But at the same point, I think that you can look at, say, that there have been one or two young, dynamic players moving up every single year. I mean, Diego Luna obviously is only going to further incentivize those sorts of scouting pursuits, but Fidel Barajas also moved to RSL and was sold very quickly to Chivas. There will be those players as long as the USL is promoting them. I will say one other thing that has really changed over the last few years is Major League Soccer's expansion has stopped looking at the lower divisions, and that was such a crucial way for players not just to be like, hey, I've been on FC Cincinnati or Nashville SC or Minnesota United for years, they'll bring me up. But also, if it's their final year in the second division, okay, well, maybe I'm going to sign with them. It's basically an extended trial period as they're building their roster. And if they're struggling to find depth at certain areas, my number is going to be called even quicker. That's not happening anymore. And so that obviously also kind of closes one of the paths. So now it is, to your point, very case by case, very much one player moving to one club rather than a few at a time. And hopefully just as USL sporting departments sophisticate, as more teams have general managers and not just the coach in charge of recruitment, as they start to build scouting, as they start to kind of identify different profiles of players that they can scout and not, continually keep transferring from within, I think that'll make it a little easier for MLS clubs to look and say there's fresh talent in the USL that they need to look at a bit closer as well.
Yeah, interested to see how Mamadou Dieng impacts Minnesota United moving forward. I'm sure that conversation is altered based on his success following this move from USL to Major League Soccer. So thank you for filling us in on that, Jeff. Before we let you go, what's the next exciting project or article that viewers should look out for from you?
Yeah, there's a few. There's one I've been working on for months that I'm trying to time with this international window, and we're kind of down to the wire. I see it, but it's about a position that America used to develop as well as anywhere in the world and hasn't for about a decade now. And so we're looking into the mysteries more of why the American goalkeeper pipeline has dried up rather than, wow, it has dried up, hasn't it? So stay tuned for that.
Very interesting stuff. Thank you, Jeff Rueter of The Athletic, senior writer for The Athletic. Thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kick Around. Be sure to check out his work. Interested to see that. Yeah, the American goalkeeper pool, not what it once was, clearly.
Let me also throw in, Jeff has a very good look at Pochettino's choices for this roster and the things that are coming up with the MLS question in the comments he made. So go check that out on The Athletic as well.
All right. And before we wrap up for the week, a couple announcements. We are holidaying it on Monday. So there's going to be no live program on Monday. And then Wednesday, be sure to tune in on Wednesday. We have a big announcement. We've been kind of working on it in the background for a little while now. But big announcement on Wednesday, a big first for Morning Kick Around. So be sure to be tuned in on Wednesday morning. You got anything before we go to our holiday weekend?
No, have a great weekend. We'll catch you guys on Wednesday. I'm sure it's going to be a fascinating weekend of soccer with the Fab Four plus whatever else we missed. So thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. And as we continually say, please help spread the word about the show. That big announcement coming up next week is I think really going to be huge for us and maybe help us reach more people. But you can help us out by sharing the show, sharing a particular segment, letting people know that we're out here.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Be safe. Enjoy the last weekend of summer. And until next Wednesday, everybody, enjoy your soccer.